بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. لله تبارك وتعالى. I praise Allah تبارك وتعالى. I thank Allah تبارك وتعالى. I ask Allah تبارك وتعالى to raise the rank and the status of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all those who follow them in right guidance. Excuse me for being excessively late. I am extremely late, because I'm not excessively late. I'm extremely late today. But alhamdulillah, we're able to do something. Sometimes, that people don't realize when we do these long weekend events, sometimes some people, they don't sleep. So, mashallah, when your body sometimes just go boom, and that be that. Nothing you can do about it. This morning was one of those post-Fajr reflexes ain't really right after Fajr. It extends. So, subhanallah. But alhamdulillah. So, did anyone do their homework? Isa, did you do your homework? Did anyone start? I did something yesterday by doing something. So, you said what? I'm sorry, I'm listening to the shaker of the women. So what we was talking about was learning about the great scholars, particularly of hadith, that were Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, as we described. And we talked about starting to document the generations of scholars, and we mentioned specifically the scholars of hadith who follow the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And it is very important because, no, You don't have more time. Now, you have all the time you want, Isa, but you don't have more time. You the sheikh. You're supposed to be ready all the time. But what would help you with that, we mentioned the biographical section in the Reliance of the Traveler, and that you would arrange the scholars by century. So we named many scholars of hadith yesterday who were Ash'ari or Maturidi in creed, right? So as a review, let's put some up quickly. So let's put up the scholars of hadith that we talked about yesterday that were Ash'ari or Maturidi, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, Hanbali, and Sufi. They combined the three main sciences and methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah when we were talking about our code number 3. Mm-hmm. So, all right, let's go. Come on, let's start naming, inshallah. And tell me from your research the centuries if you can. If not, just tell me the scholars and we can start, and then you can go look them up and find when they lived. So consider this a review. Let me ask a question. Okay. Al-Hafiz Abdul Rahman ibn Jawzi. Good. And you will find that Ibn Jawzi, he followed the methodology of the Ash'ira when it came to the attributes of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, no doubt. And his books are clear in that. He has a book translated in English. I forget the title in English. Yeah, it's called The Attributes of God. In which he clarifies how to approach the attributes of Allah, and he clears the Hanbali madhab from the anthropomorphists. Okay. Al-Hafiz al-Sheikh Abdullah al-Ghumari, and he's a recent scholar who was from Morocco, who was a teacher and student and a great scholar from Al-Azhar University. And he was among the last living Hufaz. And when we relate our hadith, he is among the foremost scholars that our teachers related from. So in our narrations back to the Prophet ﷺ in hadith, there is only our teacher, multiple of my teachers, then Al-Hafiz al-Sheikh Abdullah al-Ghumari rahimahullah ta'ala. Just one link between us. So when we relate And our ijazas, it is only one link. And the next after our shuyuk in a lot of our chains is Sheikh Abdullah al-Ghumari, rahimahullah ta'ala. Okay. More and more famous of the hadith scholars. Isa, where you at? On your bike? Put one at a time. Don't put more than one. Al-Hafiz Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, we mentioned him. He is the famous author of the book Fathul Bari, which is a commentary on Sahih al-Bukhari. He was known as Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith. And his commentary on al-Bukhari, you will clearly see that he followed the methodology of the Ash'aris and his approach to the attributes of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. He was Shafi'i and he followed the path of at-tasawwuf. Likewise, and he lived in the 9th century. Likewise, Al-Hafiz Al-Imam Abu Zakaria Yahya ibn Sharaf al-Nawawi, who lived in the 7th century, who was the Sheikh of Dar al-Hadith in Damascus, the famous author of Riyadh al-Salihin, Al-Arba'in al-Nawawiyya, Al-Adhkar, Al-Minhaj, and other books. Imam al-Nawawi was Ash'ari, was Shafi'i, and was Sufi, which is clearly understood from his books, among them his commentary on Sahih Muslim. Now, I want you to focus on two things, right? When you talk about these two scholars, Imam al-Nawawi, Al-Hafiz al-Nawawi, because when we say Imam al-Nawawi, you may forget that he was a Hafiz in Hadith. And what is unique is that since the establishment of Dar al-Hadith in Damascus, and there were many places that were like Dar al-Hadith in Damascus, but the one where Imam al-Nawawi was, they stipulated that the leader of or the Sheikh of Dar al-Hadith must be a Hafiz. He must reach that level where he memorized over 100,000 hadith with their chains of narration. Every generation, after Sheikh, after Sheikh, after Sheikh, after Sheikh, the Sheikh would be an Hafiz in hadith. And all of them were Ash'a'ira. And many of them Shafi'is, some Hanafis. In our later time. And that was the famous place where Taqiyuddin al-Subki went to visit the place of Imam al-Nawawi, rahimahullah ta'ala. All right, Tahira, you said al-Baghdadi. Who's al-Baghdadi? Which al-Baghdadi? Al-Baghdadi means they were from Baghdad in Iraq. You should be quite familiar with that. So there were hundreds of thousands of scholars who were called al-Baghdadi. Which al-Baghdadi are you talking about? This is your chance to get it in, to mix it up. These are valuable things. They seem insignificant sometimes because you're not Abdul Qahir. So which Abdul Qahir al-Baghdadi, or you could say al-Baghdadi, uh, what is he famous for? And he wasn't really known as a hadith scholar, Abdul Qahir, even though in their time, like everybody was like great scholars of all the Islamic sciences. But Abdul Qahir al-Baghdadi was his kunya, his nickname. Let me see. Right, Fundamentals of the Religion. What books did he write that are famous? And he was Ash'ari. But so when you say al-Baghdadi and hadith, you're not going to think of Abdul Qahir. Right. The Fundamentals of the Religion. And another important book that he wrote, besides that, the book Usul al-Din, he wrote another book that's very important. Someone jump in. All of you should know it. We in his book, this other book he wrote is where he mentioned at the end of that book that Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah have a consensus that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala exists without a place. Al-Farq what? Al-Farq bain al-Firaq. Right. The differences between the sects. So in Hadith, you're not going to really mention him, even though they were very knowledgeable in Hadith, the scholars of that time in general. But then some specialized in Hadith. So when we say al-Baghdadi in Hadith, who are we normally talking about? That's a specialist in Hadith. And he lived around the same time as Abdul Qahir al-Baghdadi, not too far after him. All right, let me do something real quick. Let's make this, because I want it practical for us. Y'all ready? I want to show you something. Give me 1 second. Maybe I can help you. As far as I know, all right, let me put this up. I don't know in our communities, if anyone knows, you can share it with me. Right, I'm going to ask you a question and tell me the answer. 1 second. I know we do it all the time, but I'm talking about besides us, because I would like to meet the people who do it. In our community, I'm talking about. I'm not talking about elsewhere. And if elsewhere, we can know. Right. So we're talking about this book, The Reliance of the Traveler. There's the link for it. Right. The link is in the box. I'll put it there. For those who don't have it, I suggest everyone has this book because we're going to use it. Right. Have y'all ever know of someone in our communities or other communities that did an extensive study with us in general on the biographies of the scholars and the importance of these scholars in this book? Do you know of anyone who's done that? Even live. I'm not talking about like wrote a book. Even like with their students, they sit and they go over it and explain it and show you the connections and show you the significance. It's very important. To me, if you want a proof of who are really the innovators, this is the methodology to take, right? And to me, I've not seen one book in English, not one, That's not correct. The AICP in Philadelphia have never done that. That's not true. They've done great work, but let's not exaggerate. That's not even their field at all. They don't do that. I hope they do. They have the ability. They can, but they don't. They definitely have the ability, but they don't do it. I wish they would. It would be great. But everybody has their areas of concentration. So maybe that's not their area of concentration. Overseas, they don't do it either. Sorry, I'm just being honest with you. That's not true. Right? They don't do it overseas either. Not what we're talking about. They wouldn't even read this book. Period. No, they don't in Beirut either. I don't know. Maybe you're not African American, so you don't know. If you're African American, I already know you don't know. So in that state, that's not true. And that's not to put anyone down. It's just to say that's just not true. And if it were true, it would be great. I think you misunderstood the point. Meaning, taking those scholars with their biographies, and I'm talking about related to a text like this, and then explaining their connection with them. No, that's not done. But don't get me wrong. They have the ability to do it. They can. That's just not their focus. They can do it with ease. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. They can do it with ease. And many others can do it with ease. That's just not their focus. Is that clear? Because I don't say, oh, you attacked the AICP. No, I didn't. I'm just talking about a reality. If you understand what I mean. Is that fair enough? A reason why I say that, because in our situation, what we're confronted with is false scholarship put in front of us. I was talking to Sheikh Walid about this yesterday. Okay, have it your way. No problem. Have it your way. Have it your way. No problem. I surrender. Okay, have it your way. No hard feelings. I surrender. And stay around. Don't get angry at me because I said that. Stick around. You will benefit. Even if a little bit, even if a fraction, you will benefit. Don't get angry and leave. Where was I at before I was messing with my brother or sister? I don't know if it's brother or sister. Are you a brother or sister? I'm just messing with you. Don't take it personal. It's my bad habit. I'm always messing with somebody. Right. So don't take it personal. Okay, brother. Good. My man, you're gonna stick around. Ask Wafi. As soon as she walked in the masjid, I start messing with her. I'm always messing with people. Just my nature. All right. So when we're talking about this, you're going to have an understanding of what real scholarship is. I know where I was at. I was talking to Sheikh Walid about this. It's our private conversations, but I think in general he wouldn't mind me sharing it, right? So when I tell you, and I'm gonna speak for myself, and Sheikh Walid is always speaking for himself. Let's just take us. We're not even learned students of knowledge. All right? Now, listen to what I said. I'll put it up. I'm not going to be shy about this because I don't want you to be fooled. Right? Oh, all right. I'll put it up. I am not even a learned student of knowledge. Now, I'm going to, everybody got that? Copy it without that space between the N and the O. Copy it and put it in the box. Right? 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 Copy that and put it, and I'm speaking about myself. So you could put Imam Amin, that Negro from Atlantic City, whatever the heck you want to call it. Just put it. He's not even a learned student of knowledge. So we close the door on something. I'm going to help you with something. That's not humbleness either. It's true. Not true, Muti. I give it and I take it. All the same. Ask Tahira. She's always shooting shots. All right. Now, let me say why I said it. And Sheikh Walid will tell you the same thing. So we were talking. And this relates to what I'm talking about. That's why this is important. And if, to me, if Sheikh Nur Hameen Keller didn't do anything, and I'm speaking as an African-American man, right? Right? If he didn't do anything good for us, is his translating this book and giving us that biographical section, making that accessible to us. That's sufficient if we're smart. That's sufficient. The whole book, the whole thing is great if we're smart. Like that's a huge contribution, this text. If we know what we're doing, which is going to take some prerequisite knowledge to realize it, right? All right. But so when I'm saying that, I'm putting that in context. Because I can teach you something, and I may know a little bit more than you, doesn't make me learn it. Do y'all understand that point? For instance, when we were, and I'm just being honest with you, when we were learning in the beginning of my studies, and I remember when I used to say Sheikh Walid in those days, and the people would call him Sheikh Walid. I'm going to show you something. Seriously, the people would call him Sheikh Walid. That's all I knew him of. I never knew him as nothing else. Sheikh Walid al-Rifa'i. That's all I knew, right? And when he was teaching us, we looked at him honestly, Sheikh Walid al-Rifa'i, as if he was equal to Imam Nawawi without him even saying it. Listen to my point. The way we looked at him as students, our delusion was like We had Imam Nawawi in our time because we didn't even know who Imam Nawawi was. So it didn't make a difference. That was our version of Imam Nawawi. We didn't know who Imam Nawawi was besides the name. We didn't really realize what a sheikh really is, right? So when he comes as sheikh, and he's way more knowledgeable than us in what he knows, we weren't able to realize what he didn't know. We were so infatuated with what he knows, right? That's how we looked at him. Right, wrong, and indifferent. No one said this is Imam Nawawi. No, I'm talking about the way we talked about him, the way we praised him, the way that's the same thing. Because we didn't know, right? We didn't know what a real sheikh or a real scholar really was, what it looked like, the definition of it, what they needed to know. We had no idea, right? All we knew is that he's smarter than everybody we know, right? And he was called sheikh, and people sent him. They sent him as sheikh. He was sheikh, and that was it. Even though later, as we learn more, as we meet sheikhs, as we travel, we realize, hey, he's not even a student of knowledge in the traditional sense. We realize about ourselves that, nah, we good brothers, we have good intentions, we can convey some knowledge, but let's not go overboard with it. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the same applies for me with you. Does everyone get this point? That's right, Saifullah. The one who never traveled thinks his mother is the best cook. And there's nothing wrong with that. So long as that person is teaching you the correct things and what he knows. In life, you're going to graduate. Let me give you the example, maybe does everyone clearly understand what I'm talking about? And this is not putting myself down or Sheikh Walid down. It's just putting us in our places, which sometimes we live in a time where people are not in their place. And most people are not in their place. Have them tell it. They're the best thing in Islamic knowledge since sliced bread. It's foolishness, but people will sell you that. You remember that saying? They say, if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you, right? So I'm connecting what I'm saying. So through this biographical section, what you're going to learn, you're going to have an idea of what real scholarship is like, an idea. And what he did is he put in roughly, how many roughly? Roughly 115. Let me see. So roughly 95 pages, he summarized in 95 pages information that you would need volumes of books. And literally, I'm talking about 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 volumes of books. If it weren't for this type of work, for you to get this knowledge. Volumes. And when I say volumes, I have all the books in Arabic that he used as references. So I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just like, no, literally, if you studied this book and then you went and checked the references he's used, because it's all referenced, you would see that the original books are volumes to get this information. That's a big benefit, especially for us when people are acting like scholars. Not saying I learned some things and here I'm sharing you what I know. And mashallah, you learn what I learned, and then we go get some more knowledge and higher knowledge, right? That's the way it really is, right? I have some knowledge. I learned some things. You don't know those things. I'm going to help you with those things. Then there's going to come a point where you're going to be knowledgeable of what I know. You're going to exhaust everything I have to offer, and I'm going to point you to get more knowledge, right? That's the way the scholars have always been. That's real scholarship, how it works. Scholars, they go to the people of their town. They find the knowledgeable people in their town. They exhaust whatever they have. Then they go somewhere else. They found the knowledgeable people of that town. They exhaust what they have. Then they go somewhere else. That's how it works, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That is the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Not, I go in my town, I'm deluded by the most knowledgeable in my town, and I assume that the most knowledgeable in my town is more knowledgeable than everybody in the planet. That's delusion. Some people are like that, right? But if you study the history of scholarship, and if you read these biographies, just read them, right? You're going to notice that that's how the scholars were, right? That's how it works. And then from that, you're going to learn how knowledge is conveyed, how knowledge was received, what was the methodology of all these scholars in each generation, and then you'll see the unity of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Is this point clear? I remember one time, I'll never forget, this was a lesson for me, and it applied to Islam. My teacher, Sheikh Samir, and you can meet him. He will be in among my teachers, not my only teacher, but one of the most beloved teachers of mine, right? Who I really, really love so much, right? Uh, and he'll be in Allentown, Pennsylvania, uh, from August the 16th to August the 21st. He's going to teach he's going to read the entire book of Sunan and Nasa'i with his chain of narration. It would be a great opportunity for those who are interested. I mean, it's going to be in Arabic, but alhamdulillah, you can benefit. Just to say you sat in those sessions is sufficient, right? And some you may benefit some. Uh, um, and I'll share his schedule. He'll be in Virginia, and he'll be in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and he'll be in Albany, New York. His last leg of the trip will be in Albany, New York. So Abdul Wali, you get to see Sheikh. But one time, I'm talking real scholarship, and I seen him in Damascus in his own environment, and I seen him outside, right? So one time he was teaching a book. I forget what book he was teaching, right? And he caught an extreme flu. one of them knock you out flus. He was teaching, and in between, like his speech, while somebody would read the book, he would fall out, pass out, like boom, literally in his chair like this. And then he would come through and he would start teaching. Exactly what was read. You know how we read, then I explain, like that. But he would be someone would be reading on him. I don't know if I was the one reading on him or someone else was reading on him. I don't know who was reading. I don't remember. But whoever was reading on him, they would read, and then, the sheikh would explain. But he was so sick, the reading would go, and he would just pass out in the chair. Then all of us are sitting, waiting. He would come through and then start explaining as if he never passed out, right? But he's out. You look at him, he's gone. And he did this for about 3 hours straight. Then we said to him, Sheikh, please, please, please stop. You need to go to the hospital. He was like, no, we're having a class and we're going to finish this book. This was the first day. He did that all the first day. Then he went. So I asked him at the end of that first day, and that class was like 9 hours. 9 hours, like that. I asked him at the end of that class, I said, Sheikh, listen, what you need us to get for you. He's a doctor. So mind you, he's a doctor, a professional, a real doctor, right? He has his own clinic in Damascus. He's a doctor, right? So I said to him, I said, what do you need to get for your ailments? He said, I can't treat myself. I need you to get me a doctor. I was confused. I was like, what? Like, you know what's wrong with you. So you prescribe medicine all the time. That's your job, right? As a professional outside of a sheikh, he's a doctor. He said the doctor can't treat himself. He needs to get another doctor. He said, get me a doctor. So the next day, some of our students were doctors. So one of them came, he said, tell the sheikh is totally dehydrated. Tell him to stop. He's not going to listen to me. So the doctor told me this. He said, but in the meanwhile, I'm going to write a prescription. Go get this medicine. Go get this medicine. Go get this medicine, right? And so he finished the whole book 2 days, in 2 days, in 18 hours, in that condition. And then he was gone for the rest of the days on the trip. He couldn't do anything. But he finished, right? And people were in tears to watch him do that. But the thing I took from it, and later he said it to me on many different occasions, that everybody has someone that has a skill, even if they're skillful, that they need. Everybody. So the person may be great in one field, but suffer from radical deficiencies in another, right? There's no jack of all trades. The only one who believes that is the one who doesn't know the other trades well. Write that. There is no jack of all trades. And the only one who does not realize that is the one who doesn't know the other trades. Do you understand what I mean? There is no jack of all trades. And the one who doesn't realize that is the one who doesn't know the other trades. If you read these biographies, you're going to discover that. There are people who are specialists in this, specialists in that, specialists in that. That's their field. But if you take them outside of their field and they try to act as if they're in their own field, they're going to come up with astonishing matters. That's for everyone. It's no, but collectively as Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, when all of those fields come together and the experts in each field come together and show you the unity of Ahl Sunnati, you win. Right? But and there was a time, and I was telling Sheikh Walid this, I was like, listen, think about this, Sheikhuna. When there was, in the time of Imam al-Nawawi, if you was in the session in Darul Hadith, in the time of Imam al-Nawawi, most of the people that we call Sheikh today, 90% of them would have been the servant, pouring the tea, sweeping the floor, cleaning the bathroom, or preparing the shoes. They wouldn't even be in the session. That's the level of the sessions of Imam al-Nawawi. Or Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Most of the people whom we call Sheikh would be the servant in the session, pouring the tea, water, whatever, sweeping the floor, cleaning the bathroom, preparing the shoes. Not in the session. The session would be way above their pay grade. But with that knowledge, which we learned from this, right? What we learned from this is that, but we live in a time where those same people act as if though they are actually at the level of Imam al-Nawawi, and some of us are deluded to actually believe that. As if the religion pivots upon the statement of your delusions. My sheikh said, who's your sheikh? I mean, like, even if he's great, he's not like at their level at all, not even close. So he still is a referent scholar at best, a referent sheikh at best, at best, at best, at tops. He's a great transmitter at tops, at best, at best. He's not Hujjatul Islam. He's not Imam Ghazali or Imam Tahawi. He's not like that. And the only reason you don't realize that, because you haven't connected yourself to the words and the scholarship of the likes of Imam al-Ghazali and the likes of Imam Tahawi. I'll give you an example. All of us know Imam Tahawi, right? Everyone say Imam Tahawi. If you heard of Imam Tahawi, who's Imam Tahawi? Answer me. I'm going to give you something. I'm talking about from our side. We hear about Imam Tahawi, right? So what do we know about, like, from how do we hear about Imam Tahawi? All of us should know Imam Tahawi because that was one of the things the women beat the men with. Hey, brothers, right? That was one of the questions the women, they gave a chain of narration from Tahawi to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, it was a popular book in Aqidah. Anyone else? Creed of Tahawi. So everybody's on Aqidah Tahawiyah, right? Famous for it. Okay. So most of us only know his Creed of a Tahawi, right? What is his major works in? So we think he's just Aqidah wasn't his field. That's a summary of Aqidah. That's not his field. What is his field? Do we know? Where you at? Where's my brother? Nah, I'm bringing you back. Where you at? Did you leave or you too busy? You know who I'm looking for. I was talking to you earlier because you should know Imam Tahawi. Where you at? Where's my brother go? Brother Lean, where you at? Come back. Tell me about Imam Tahawi. What was his major works in? What field? Because you should know Imam Tahawi. That's easy for you, right? What was his field? His major works were in what field? Anyone going to answer? And don't feel ashamed. We just sharing with each other because I'm trying to help us get somewhere as a people. Even though I'm not there, I want us to get there. I'm not there. I admit I'm falling so short. But if I can help you get there, then mashallah, I'll just grab your coattail and ride with you. That's fine with me. I just want to make it. It doesn't matter how I get there. So if I help you to, take us to shore, I get us a little bit started and then grab on you and you take us to shore, we're going to be safe. It doesn't matter. Okay. So Imam Tahawi's major books are in hadith, in the field of hadith. And he has a summary in al-fiqh. But his major works that are referred to, specialist books at the highest caliber of scholarship, are in hadith, right? He was a hafidh of hadith, a hafidh of hadith, master Imam Tahawi, right? So when he says that Allah is not contained by the six directions, as is the case with the other created things, that's significant. That's coming from a hafidh of hadith. That's coming from someone at a high level, right? Not only he is a jurist as well. That means something. It's very significant. So when you connect that and you realize his creed, and then you can compare that when you read these English translations or even in Arabic footnotes on his creed, and those so-called people following the way of the Salaf are correcting the creed of Imam Tahawi, it's ludicrous. So when Al-Albani or Bin Baz starts to correct Imam Tahawi, and when you look at the levels of knowledge and exposure and time, you're like, would you stop, please? It doesn't make sense. But you're only going to know that when you're familiar with these biographies and the chains of narrations and the who's who and how they were connected and the significance of each people in each person in their field. It helps a lot. And for us, that's going to be something that's going to help us generationally, right? And definitely we want to get beyond the argumentation phase and just be good researchers to the best of our ability. Because really, everything we have has been transferred to us, right? From someone, right? We learn from somebody who learned from somebody who learned, all of us, whether we know it or not. That's our reality. You got it from somewhere. I hope you're not making things up, right? I hope none of us are just making things up. We actually received it from someone or somewhere, right? And our Islamic system checks that, right? Our Islamic system of how we learn checks that. Are y'all with me? So I want you to do that homework, right? Go to this. It's only 90 pages to look through. There's 391 entries in it, right? Right? But, and all we're taking out of those is hadith scholars. And he's going to mention who was a hadith scholar, who was a jurist, right? He's going to mention it. And then you just look at the end of every line, he's going to tell you he died in such and such year. And he's going to put the Hijri century first, and then he's going to put the Christian era time, right? And then you start to go, you just make that chart. Don't, come on, let's do it. It's going to help us, right? It's going to help us tremendously in our understanding, right? And then I'll add to it. We're going to make a big chart. All of us going to have a nice notebook of the scholars of Hadith. We'll start there. Then we can go to other science. Let's start with the scholars of Hadith, the well-known scholars of Hadith. So then we have a context. I mean, this is easy for us to do. It's not, I'm giving you something you can do. Then I'm going to do it from another side and help you with more. So it'll just be something that you pass on to your children and your grandchildren and your grandchildren. Remember, I was talking about the statement of Abdullah ibn Mubarak, that the chain of narration is a part of the religion. If it's not for the chain of narration, then anyone can say whatever they want, right? And I said, it's great when I look at my teachers and I see they all have their lineages of knowledge, right? I relate from this sheikh, who relate from that sheikh, who relate from that, sometimes son to father and back to grandfather, all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ. I want that for us. And even if we're late in the chain, then that's our starting point. Fine, right? So in my own family, I'm the first to receive those chains of narration. But already now, I preserve them for my children. So my children, when they start talking, they're going to be I relate from my father, right? Who relates from Sheikh so-and-so from here, Sheikh so-and-so from here. And they have that. You see my point? Then my grandchildren will relate from their father, who relates from their grandfather. Now, what does that look like 100 years from now, 100 years from now? And if we maintain it to the day of judgment. Now, that's just the chains of narration, the connection, which is really very important. But with that, we value it, so then we learn the sciences with it. So maybe at my level, just a poor, common person know a few things and can help the children. But the next generation, now they're exposed to something that we weren't exposed to when we were babies. So our children start out with stuff we would have never imagined. They start out from the beginning, they have all this, right? my children will say, I sat in the session of Sheikh so-and-so when I was 5 years old, when I was 3 years old. And they have, because we're modern, they have pictures. They have ijazah that they sat in the session for the blessing of it at that level, that they was there because they heard. They heard the voice. They saw the face. I put them in the sheikh's hand. The sheikh kissed them. The sheikh made dua for them. They got that connection. And if you keep them in that circle, they're going to grow up remembering Sheikh Samir, Sheikh Samir, Sheikh so-and-so, Sheikh so-and-so. By the time they get of age of tamyiz, they start knowing stuff. By the time they reach the age of puberty, they can start conveying. By the time they're teenagers or young adults, they're teachers. Now, with all that stuff, you prepared the library for them. You prepared everything. Now your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren have massive libraries, have chains of connections, have contacts with everybody what they need. You got to have that kind of vision. And you're looking at that 100 years down the line. Now we don't have slaves. We don't have slaves anymore among us. What do I mean? People who just bah, 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 and someone else is dominating them. You've changed that whole environment within 30 years. In 30 years, you've changed the whole mindset of your people. This is the stuff I'm talking about. And it starts with things like this. I was listening on YouTube. Some guy, he wrote a book, The Original Man, The Life and Times of Elijah Muhammad, right? And it's like a biography of Elijah Muhammad, written by, it's got nine, like this, I think a Christian guy, Professor Clegg is his last name. I forget his name. Anyway. So I was listening to the interview, and he was just talking about the nation of Islam and how it started and the life of Elijah Muhammad. And, it was, just talking about Father Muhammad and all this stuff, right? And I was thinking, that was in the 1900s, 1920s, 1930s, right? And so let's go from the 1930s to 1975. You're talking about, say, 1935, 40-something years of movement, right? 40-something years. And after 40 years, they just learning real Islam. When Elijah Muhammad dies and Imam Muhammad takes over, now he got to gradually unravel all those things, slowly changing, which they call the second resurrection. And then to the early 2000s, to Imam Muhammad, rahimahullah, finally sends children, young men, to Syria to study. Listen to what I'm saying. All of them who studied in Syria, and I know some of them, right? They're the first stage of actually learning traditional Islam among their community. And to this day, they're still in a struggle to teach the body of people that they have it. They can convey it in form, but not straightforward. It's got to be taken in consideration where the people at. So you're talking about almost 100 years to still get on equal footing with traditional Islamic studies with the rest of the world. 100 years, right? 100 years, and they're still not there yet. as a community we're talking about. I remember one imam, I won't mention his name, and I bet not. He said, well, yo, imam, why you go there on me? So I won't mention his name. But we had a retreat, and I was laughing. I had tears in my eyes. I was laughing so hard. So we had an imam's retreat. I won't mention the imam, and I won't mention the place. I'll just mention the story. Deal, imam. It was so funny. You're going to laugh at this, right? So the imam, we're driving, and the imam gets a phone call. And so we know, as imams, we get together, we start talking about stuff, because every imam, especially black imams, we be going through it. So no matter the community, we all got a similar circumstance, right? So, no, we talking, and at the time we talking about the difficulties we have. It's just imam talk, right? So he gets a phone call, and they're calling him because it's time for Salatul Maghrib. SubhanAllah. This is the struggle. So it's time for Salatul Maghrib. So they call him, they say, can you talk to so-and-so? He's leading the prayer in English. Now they have someone to lead the prayer correctly. This person takes over to lead the prayer while there's other people there who leads the prayer. And then what it says, God know every language. And he says to me, he said, and you think you got problems? Tell that guy to sit down. But that's after 100, that's almost 100 years, almost 100 years. And this is still the struggle. If you get my point, we can't be like that. For the future generations, we are where we are, and we accept, and we love our family where no matter what level we are. But we can't stay there. Do you understand what I mean now? You get my point? And the person has a good intention. I'm going to lead the prayer, but no, no. There's rules, there's arkan, there's mubtilat, there's shurut, there's preconditions, integrals, invalidators. There's a methodology, certain things you can't do. Do you follow what I mean? Y'all understand my point? And that works for us. Some things I just can't do. I don't have the ability. So that means I have to get someone or build someone who has that ability because I don't have it. And the one who doesn't have a thing can't give it. That's the way it works. If I don't have it, I can't give it to you. I can't pretend I don't have it. I can't give it to you. But we need it as a community. We need it. And we don't need to be slaves to get it. We don't have to be slaves to get it. We just have to put in the work as a group, because some of you don't know it, but you're more skilled than me or Sheikh Waleed. Your skill hasn't been manifest. You are more skilled than me and Sheikh Waleed, but you just don't have the information yet. Once you get it, lights out. You're going to take it somewhere else. It's our job to give it to you. Do you follow what I mean? And I'm just giving you by example to show us what we need to do. And for me, I'm not intimidated by someone who knows more than me. I know what we know very well, and I know enough to recognize how much the other one knows and where his weakness is too, and where he can help us and where he can hurt us. Right? where he can help us and where he can hurt us. I'll give you an example. And I know I'm overextending, but this is important matters to me. Because I was talking to my wife about this. I was like, do you think that people are in my community, I was talking about specifically, you think they get where I'm going with this? Do you, I know they hear me, but do you think they really understand where I'm going with this? She said, we need to write it down because some people, they need a visual reminder written down. They understand in general what you're talking about. But in the broad sense, it's way beyond what they are familiar with, right? But for me, I think it's our life jacket. It's our flotation device in this vast, dangerous ocean so we don't drown. It's not easy. I know people right now, I'm going to tell you. I know people, and I'm pushing some of them, who could do a great job with us, but they can't even talk without some immigrants' authorization. That hurts. And they can't talk without some immigrants' mindset. They even forgot that they're black. No, they know they're black. They look at themselves in the mirror every day. But in their mind, the way those immigrants programmed them, that it's bad to be yourself, to be a black man or a black woman. You must be like us. And guess what? They're the worst of the Arabs. I hate to say it. Those people are the worst of the Arabs. As if you go and travel the Arab world, they are the worst of the Arab world, but they're over top of black people telling them what to do in the name of Islam. But if you look at their society, and I've been in their society, I've lived among them, they are the worst of the Arabs, the worst in their cultural practices. But these are the ones bossing you around. And if you don't believe me, travel the Arab world and see if they're not the worst of them in their practices. They're the furthest away from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam among the Arabs. The furthest away. This is true. I've lived with them. I know for sure. I'm not, but they are the ones bossing black people around. It's crazy. Like, but we don't know. We never traveled. So to us, they coming on their horse. Hey, you, dumb black guy. Hey, dumb black girl. Kiss my hand. Be my servant. I'm teaching you, and no one. And then they send Wahhabis on the other side to misguide us, and then they use that to oppress us. See, I'm saving you from the Wahhabis, but I am making you my slave. You're not saving me. I'm going from one evil to another. I'm still suffering, and my children are suffering, and my great-grandchildren are suffering. I want for all that to change. I want for all that to change. I want to see that change. I want us to be on equal footing with the rest of the Muslim world. In knowledge, in practice, in piety. I want that for us. I don't want to, every time we come, we're under someone else. No. We got our brothers that went overseas, studied in their institutions, and still not in charge. In their own country, in their own neighborhoods, still not in charge. Think about that. This is serious stuff. It's not like, and it should be nothing wrong with us saying, yeah, you're right. And we know I'm right in that. It ain't about me. That's reality. Listen, y'all saw that commercial? No, not commercial. How many saw the YouTube video where that guy worked 27 years, I think it was, for Burger King, and what they gave him? Who saw that video? It went viral. You remember the guy? He worked 27 years for Burger King, I think, and never missed a day. Y'all remember that? Did y'all see that? Let me see. Hold on one second.
A movie ticket. Thank you very much. And I also got a bag of Reese's. This is very nice.
There's the link.
And like a lanyard. 2 pins.
There's the link. Check that link out. Everyone look at it. I want every Black individual in here, and even non-Black, right? Non-African American. I want you to look at that video. That's become us in Islam. That's, remember I told you whatever happened to Black people in general happened to Black people in Islam? The same stuff. We went, we studied in their institutions, we studied in their classes for years, wrote notes, and at the end of the day, we're still like that. Like, that's appalling to treat someone like that. But that's the norm, how we're treated. Religiously, worldly, don't matter, same stuff. And we have to change that. After 27 years of working in Burger King, he should have been offered a franchise. He's a master after 27 years. He knows everything. He didn't miss no days. Right? We have that same thing in the deen. And if you notice, even the Salafi people, let's be fair, so it doesn't stop. If you look at the rebellion among the Salafi people, the key rebellion for the Black Salafis I'm talking about, the students of knowledge among them, none of them became sheikhs. They all students of knowledge. No matter they graduated nothing, to the Saudis, you're a student of knowledge and stay in your place, boy. And a lot of them started bucking on that. And I applaud them. I applaud them. You should buck. You should fix your Aqidah too, but you should buck on that. Even if you have the Aqidah problem, don't be a slave. Even if you got to fix that by yourself, get away from that slavery stuff. Stop letting people enslave you spiritually, mentally. They've learned that if you take the mind of a person, you don't need their body. They're going to bring their body to you. No, this is serious stuff. Maybe this is a round table in itself. Maybe this is the round table in itself tonight. Yeah, we should. I'm going to talk to my fellow imams. Because it's the same thing. And that, like I said, that's among the Salafis. If you go look at those old videos, when they started bucking, all these famous graduates from University of Medina who started bucking, they were bucking against that. They didn't, and they bucked so much that people think they're not Salafi no more. That's how much they bucked. But you got Sunnis that are still like that. The Salafis have arrived and they're running institutions, taking over masajid, black so-called Salafis. You can, because I know some people, no, don't call them Salafi, call them Wahhabi. All right, I want you to be clearly understanding what I'm saying. It's two different things. Those black graduates from in Medina, for instance, Salafi, they bucked. And when they bucked, they didn't change their creed. They just stopped the slavery stuff. They still have the same creed, same belief, which they got to fix. But that slave stuff, they bucking. And look, they built institutions. They took over masjids. They joined together. They had two big conferences here in Atlantic City. All of the graduates of Medina who've been bucking, two of them, right, in Atlantic City, all of them, right? I actually met with them and talked to them. And that was their thing. Some of them didn't want to meet with me. They said, this guy, Ash'ari, Sufi, deviant, who just want to argue. But the elders among them, we talked, and we still talk to this day. We don't agree on creed, not at all. But we all agree, get out of that slave mentality we have. We agree with that. And we talk, like the big imams, elders among them, the original early, we talk. Because we agree with that. We need our independence. We need to stop being Islamically colonized. Put that up. We need to stop being Islamically colonized. All of us. I don't care what you call yourself. Please put that up. We need to stop being Islamically colonized. That's a must. If we don't do nothing but that, then that's a step for our generation. If we successfully do that, and I'm talking about across the board, right? Because you know what they did with us successfully? They taught us to serve them. We were deluded to actually think they were teaching us. They weren't. They were teaching us to serve their mission on every end. They never taught us. They taught us how to serve them. Both the Wahhabiyya and both the Sunnis. So you Ahl Sunnah, yes, but you're a slave. You Ash'ari, you Shafi'i, Hanafi, think about it. Sufi, but you a slave. You don't run nothing. You don't control nothing. You don't make no decisions. You a slave. This is a problem, and we must break free. Listen, I remember I was in Lebanon. I never forget this. For years, Lebanon was in the civil years, was in civil war for many years. If you go downtown Beirut, man, you can look up and there's bullet holes all over the place, right? They had a civil war. They used to be shooting at each other from across the street, right? the Syrians took over Lebanon. They were really running Lebanon. And they got their independence. They was dancing in the streets. I remember this verbatim. They was dancing in the streets. They were free from the Syrian military. Because they used to, even though you had a puppet government, Syria ran it. And nothing goes without Syrians' approval, right? That was a time in Lebanon. Why it's okay for you to declare your independence and not us to declare our independence? All of those Arab states at one point declared their independence from their colonizers. They declared their independence. The Arab Spring was all about people declaring their independence from oppression. Why everyone else can do it, but the black people shouldn't always be colonized, enslaved, and subjugated? Everyone in the world, or even in Africa, they declared their independence. We read about the Shehu. The Shehu was fighting to be free. Those military campaigns that the Shehu was, so that people could be free to worship Allah freely. And they established their own states and their own communities. What's wrong with us? Why we can't do it? Why? Why is it for everyone else, we celebrate them getting their independence from foreign occupation? Why we got to be occupied all the time? We fought to get off the white man's slave plantations. We died. We had underground railroads. We fought to get through Jim Crow and civil rights fights and all kinds of fights to become Islamic slaves. A'udhu billah. No, absolutely not. But guess what? That's how we've become, a slave nation. And we can't even make a movement with us without someone saying, hey, bring boss. We cannot leave boss out. Bring boss. Come on, boss. Sit next to me. And you must have prestigious position, boss. Hey, we need to get ourselves together. Some things is in-house stuff. Tell boss to sit outside for a minute while we get it together. And maybe we can cooperate. Why he got to be at the table when we're trying to get a good meal with good nutrients? Why we can't sit down and figure out our own matters? And he has nothing to do with our matters at all. He's not in our matters. Why you got to include him? And that doesn't mean we can't work with him. But he's not going to be. Listen, give you an example. If I come to your house and y'all having a family discussion, a real family issue, right? And it's a family thing. And it's really a private matter, real private. Aren't you going to tell me, excuse us, we have to take this family thing, right? It's a real crucial family matter. Look, excuse me, Imam. It's family stuff. Like you said, excuse yourself. No disrespect. We'll get back with you. We may even come to you for some counseling after we as a family work this stuff out. Because I remember one of my sheikhs told me something about marriage, and I'll give you some marriage advice. Everybody likes marriage. My sheikh, he said to me, he said, listen, whenever you and your wife have conflict, don't involve no one else till y'all settled it. Once y'all settled it, then talk to someone else to see how you can do it better. But don't talk to no one else until y'all settled it. and keep working through the differences before you interject someone else's opinion in your affairs, make sure you have an understanding together first, or it will destroy your marriage. That's what he told me, right? Because as a unit, husband and wife, y'all share stuff that no one else shares. No one. At night, when y'all close those doors and you as husband and wife have your own time, just you and her, no one else in the world experiences what you and her experience. Nobody. 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 The emotion, the feeling, no one. Not your brother, sister, cousin, best friend, father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, sheikh. No one experience what you two experience together between you. So they don't see all what is going on in your unit. Expand that. As a people, we have experiences, especially as Black people, whether we're Muslim or non-Muslim, we have experiences that no one in the world experiences like we do. Please put that in. As Black people, Muslim or non-Muslim, in America, we have experiences that no one in the world can identify with. They're unique to us. Do you understand my point? As Black people in America, Muslim or non-Muslim, we have unique experiences that no one in the planet can identify with. They're specific for us. Only us, unique. There may be some similarities, but it's not the same. So when we're talking about building what we need, hey, some of that is us that we have to do it. We the only one going through it the way we're going through it. It's real. So all that relates to our connection, our everything we need to do, right, to get our independence. And if we don't have proper religious understanding, we're never going to get independence. We're going to be spiritual, religious, cultish slaves forever. If we don't learn our religion well enough for ourselves, right? Because there's a difference in learning the religion to be a parrot for someone else, right? That's not going to free you. Even if you have knowledge, it's not going to free you. It hasn't. If we look at our community and look at all the various movements we've been through, this stuff is just repeating itself. It's the same stuff. It doesn't change. Just different group, different name, different people, same stuff. Translation, Negroes at the bottom, no matter how you cut it. No matter what group, no matter what organization, no matter what sheikh, it's always the same. Negroes at the bottom. That's real. And if we don't wake up to that, and we don't, listen, I know with my boys, forget about it. They will not be serving nobody. They'll benefit, they'll cooperate, they'll learn, but they're going to be independent Black men. Count on it. It's not happening. That doesn't mean they won't learn from no one. That doesn't mean they won't benefit from no one. That doesn't mean they're not going to take advice from no one. But they're going to build, insha'Allah ta'ala, for their succeeding generations. They're not surrendering their people to nobody. No. And I suggest us as a people that we stop that. that we stop that. Stop surrendering ourselves to others. That doesn't mean we don't work with them. That doesn't mean we don't cooperate. We are a nation. Nations work together to make a better world. Nations cooperate together to make a better world. We are a nation as well. And we have the right, the God-given right, to do what? To manage our own affairs. To develop our own communities. And we have to do that. And we, at the same time, we're going to cooperate with others. We must. We're Muslim. But you don't have to be in charge. Why you got to be in charge? All the time. We can't make a decision ourselves. We don't know how. We've done it in ignorance. Let me explain that video. When Elijah Muhammad died, according to some reports, the nation of Islam was valued at $40 million. Hey, $40 million. Did you hear that? Put that up there. I want you to think about that. At the time of the death of Elijah Muhammad, the nation of Islam, they were all black. They didn't have the correct belief. They had a corrupt understanding of Islam, but they was on black time. In the 70s, they were worth $40 million. Put that up. I want you to look at it. 40 million. And they were black. I know they got us. Don't talk about the nation. No, we better. We need to learn something. We better. We don't have to agree with their creed. We understand that part. We fixed that. What about this other part? They had schools. They had business. They had transportation mechanisms. And as soon as we started loosening that up, gone. 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 So don't tell me we can't do it. There's the dalil. We can. We can do it. We can. But we got to love ourselves enough to believe in ourselves. We can do it. Don't tell me we can't. I seen it. And I seen it that even in the Ansar community with the Dr. York, the one that Farouk hate, right? I seen in the heart of Brooklyn, brownstones, blocks, own businesses, money. They was in the recording, state-of-the-art studio, entrepreneurship, and plenty of millions. I want to show you something real quick. And we did it. When I left the mosque, I did some math, me and my buddy, when we left. Because, you know, when you wake up from stuff, you start thinking. At the height of the Ansars, they had about 300 peddlers out, men on the streets. Each of them bringing $100 a day. That's $30,000 a day. Right? Times 365 days. That's $10,680,000 a year. They did that for at least, that we can count without exaggerating, 10 years. All right, let me go back. Look at that. In those 10 years, just from peddling, $109,500,000. That's just from peddling. And then all the other stuff they were doing. Don't tell me what black people can't do. That's math. Can't deny it. I lived it. I saw it with my own eyes. At the height of it, I'm talking about. For 10 years. And I ain't talking about the businesses. I'm not talking about the music and everything we don't even know about. Real estate. That's why they were able to go to Atlanta, to Georgia, and take over a whole daggone city. Because they had that kind of money. Bad ideas, bad creed, bad art. But we Ahlul Sunnah. Why we can't even do a fraction of that? But we're the people of truth. They were misguided, we agree. No argument with that. Kufr, no argument with that. But they were men and women, black men and women, and that's what they were capable of doing without no foreign support. They would be able to do it. What's our problem? Tell me. What's our problem? What's our problem? And we spend the equivalent years serving others, giving all our resources and talents to others, and the others build. This is facts. You cannot argue with it. Don't change the dialogue. If we got religious errors, we had them in the past, we can fix those religious errors. Now, what about this situation? Don't deviate. Because here's what a lot of us do. The slave master, in the form of the sheikh, will use the religion to separate us from a collective in movement. Will use the religion to separate us from a collective movement, while they take that resources and build for their collectivity. So we would be divided. We won't support one another, but each of us will support them. They will build institutions just like we have the ability to do, but they won't include us. And I could give examples of that because I've watched that too. I travel. I've seen. I've seen what they've done while they used us to do it. I've seen it over and over and over. And you don't got to look at one group. You can look at every group did it. Every single group. You can name them. Different groups. They're not the same. Different groups have all used black people for the same purpose, while black people continue to be used. I'm talking about black Muslims. They learn from their buddy, Mr. Charlie. They learned from their buddy, Mr. Charlie. All of them went to Mr. Charlie's universities. They send their kids over here, go to Mr. Charlie's university, get degrees, study the American Negro, and use him. They always tell us about Kufr. All of them got Kufr degrees from Kufr universities. Tell me about that. They tell us how great they are, but all of them got university degrees from white American Kufr universities. I'm talking about from that. That's real. They didn't go to HBCUs. No, they didn't go there. How many of your sheikhs go study their degrees? Your leaders, they got degrees. How many of them went to HBCUs? Hello? How many of them went to HBCUs? Answer me. We send our children, and we take dignity in that. My daughter is in the HBCU. My nieces and nephews, HBCUs. We take pride in that. Honor. None of them went to a HBCU. All of them went to American universities that have no idea of diversity, truthfully. They don't even include black folks in that. They live not with black folks. They live in the suburbs. And then they come in with the black folks to get their money, then go back out to the suburbs. They have nothing to do with you. But yet, these are the ones that are your teachers and telling you what to do. This is real. And you've seen this in your experiences before Islam, and you watch it every day on TV, and you still learn nothing. Yes, it does make a difference. You know why it makes a difference? Because as a black man, I am a Muslim, but I am black too. And I have black children and grandchildren. When they look at success, they need to see themselves. Even if it's a worldly success, they need to see themselves sometimes as successful, because it does great damage to their dignity to constantly watch someone else as a leader. Yes, it does make a difference. It makes a huge difference. Because the others, they go to those Kufa universities, they learn the beneficial things, they bring it back, and they build their own communities. And when they look, they see themselves. Yes, it makes a big difference. Has nothing to do with kufr, because the institution is mostly built on kufr. That's the West. That's real. So if it's no benefit, which there is great benefit, why you came? There's no benefit. Why are you here? Why are you here? Don't tell me for da'wah, because we ain't receiving it. Most of our people are still suffering from deviant ideas in Islam, with you right in the presence of them. So you ain't here for us. That's obvious. Unless we blind. That's obvious. That's obvious. So yes, it does make a difference. It really makes a difference. And it is more than a black thing. It's an essential black thing. Since it's a black thing, put on it essential black thing. It is. I have children. I have grandchildren. I know how important that is. As a black man, I know how important it is for the dignity of my children and grandchildren to see themselves in charge. To be able to see what we can do, what we can become, to see us with our own business, to see us with our own institutions, to see us doing excellence in every field, religiously and worldly. That's important. That's important. When I go down to that university and I see my daughter, and all around her is a bunch of black people moving forward, building, trying to do something, that means the world to her. She doesn't have no inferiority complex. She's watching black excellence in the worldly perspective. Now, oh, do your deen, sis. She's a Muslim among all them doing her stuff. I'm proud of that. And she's, inshallah, going to learn the good things and come back and build a community like they do. They send their kids, they become doctors, they become engineers, and they build their communities. And while we sit there and watch, yeah, it's important. You daggone Skippy is important. And I wish we understood how important that is. And all we got to do is look at ourselves, look at our communities. If you take one aspect of it, How many of I'll save this for the round table. Round table tonight. I'm going to stop here because I could go round table tonight. Inshallah, we're going to continue this conversation on the round table tonight at 7 o'clock. That gives me a time to really sit down and document what I'm talking about. No, we have a lot of work to do. And guess what? When you do it, they'll respect you more. We're capable. We're capable. We're not stupid. We're not ages. We can do it. We're not incapable. And listen, that's real. And I'll show you in every movement that has come in the Black community, outside of the Black community, I'll show you the same thing. No matter where they came from, I'll show you the same thing. Every group that came in the Black community in the history of Islam in America, from everywhere, did the same exact thing. No change. And only an idiot will keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. That's just real. But I'm gonna put a pause and a plug in it right there. I'm gonna talk to my fellow imams and we're gonna come back. Listen, I see it happening. And listen, from my own teachers, I'm gonna tell you one time what Sheikh Samir said to me, and I'll stop with this. I have my own teachers. I have my own chains of narrations. I have my private relationships with my own teachers from all around the world. And I talk to them about these issues. I don't, listen, man, this is serious to me, right? Because I realize a lot of our leaders have sold us out unwittingly. A lot of our Black Muslim leaders have sold us out unwittingly. And that's me giving the benefit of the doubt. I could say it another way, but I won't. Giving the benefit of the doubt, a lot of our Black Muslim leaders have sold us out unwittingly, and I can document it. And guess what? Even myself as a leader, I realize I did the same thing. And that's why I'm so hard in changing it. And after all the years in leadership, if I would have been woke, as we say, even 10 years ago, it would look totally different by now. But I didn't know. Unwittingly, I didn't even realize what we were doing. I didn't realize it, to be honest. I didn't see the significance. It wasn't even told to me. I'm Muslim and we don't got nothing to do with none of this. We don't have, that ain't our problem. That's kufar. This is our problem too. Right? That's the reality. And a conversation will prove it quick. We'll prove it quick. Quick, straight up. You know, they used to have in the 70s, early 70s, every year. You remember the Tony Brown show? Y'all remember that show? I'm sorry, I'm trying to stop, but once it starts flowing, it just goes. And because this is like a passion burning inside of me, burning, right? They used to have every year, they used to have a round table with black leaders, right? 72, 73, then they went 74. They would have a panel with all different black leaders from all across the spectrum of the black community, right? One time they had Elijah Muhammad on there, right? I mean, they would do it every year, a panel. And Tavis Smiley, that Tavis Smiley, yeah, he did one years ago and they didn't continue it when he had the State of Black America. So he had a big, round table. And representing Islam, unfortunately, was Farrakhan. Where were the Sunni Muslims? Black Sunni Muslim leaders. I'll show you.
He went along with the rest of them, made the case for war. After everything was done, he wanted to stick around, but they said, no thanks, we're through with you, and he was gone, and Condi came in.
I said I would stop.
So at this point, I really don't have that much sympathy. In the end, he knew what he was doing.
A statement that Mr. Powell makes himself by saying during the course of the interview that
I'm going to leave Washington Journal at this point to return to live coverage of the day-long forum on the state of the Black Union. It's hosted by...
Because covenant introduces us.
All right, that's 2005. Show me the black Sunni Muslims. Where they at? That's 2005. They used to have these round tables. We still need them, right? There were black Muslim Sunnis. You know where we were? Absent. And we'll say, oh, no one invited. No, you wasn't involved. If you're out there, you're going to be invited. Every time we have a city movement, anything that relates to the community, we're invited. Right? We're invited. Why? Because we're involved. When there's a city issue, that I'm going to be called by the officials. So in any place where we're involved, we're going to be called. Where we're not involved and not interested, why call you? For what? You're not in it. You're not interested. You're not involved. Why am I call you? You're not on the ground. You're not involved, as if you don't care. And worse, when your leaders are telling you and you're listening, they're all kuffar, don't care about them. When your leaders are telling you that, they're kuffar, don't listen. We don't care about them, we Muslim. Huh? That's my grandma, my mom, my uncle, my cousin, my next door neighbor. What are you talking about? But we listen, yeah. It's sad. And we got to change that. All right, I'm out. May Allah reward you all. I gave you enough stuff to really think about and reflect and prepare for this Black Roundtable tonight. Because we're talking solutions as well, but we can never forget the problem. While we talk about solutions, and we talk about them, and we're doing them, but we never got it. We can't forget the problem until the problem goes away, or it's going to keep repeating itself. You have to highlight the problem until it goes away, or it will return. Ask people who have cancer. They go get cancer. Sometimes they treat it, and if they don't monitor it, it comes back and kill you. And if we don't change, that stuff's a cancer in our communities. And eventually it's going to destroy us if we don't monitor it, and change. All right, I'll see y'all tonight. Round table at 7 o'clock. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakum Allahu khaira. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.